Welcome to Sacred Sublimity with the preview of the upcoming Sunday school lesson from Isaiah 53 verses 1 through 7 entitled The Servant's Suffering. Let us read the scripture text together.
Isaiah 53, 1 now through 7, King James Version. And who hath believed our report, and to whom is the arm of the Lord revealed? 2. For he shall grow up before him as a tender plant, and as a root out of a dry ground. He hath no form nor comeliness, and when we shall see him, there is no beauty that we should desire him. 3. He is despised and rejected of men, a man of sorrows, and acquainted with grief. And we hid as it were our faces from him. He was despised, and we esteemed him not. 4. Surely he hath borne our griefs, and carried our sorrows, yet we did esteem him stricken, smitten of God, and afflicted. 5. But he was wounded for our transgressions, he was bruised for our iniquities. The chastisement of our peace was upon him, and with his stripes we are healed. 6. All we like sheep have gone astray. We have turned every one to his own way, and the Lord hath laid on him the iniquity of us all. 7. He was oppressed, and he was afflicted, yet he opened not his mouth. He is brought as a lamb to the slaughter, and as a sheep before her shearers is dumb. So he openeth not his mouth. May the Lord add his blessings to the readers and hearers of his word.
A servant without stature. Who has believed our message? Isaiah the prophet begins with a question that hangs in the air, heavy with sorrow. It's a question that echoes the skepticism of his own time and anticipates the disbelief that would greet the servant when he finally arrived. The message was simply too strange, too upside down for the world to grasp. People were looking for a hero, a champion, clad in shining armor, someone whose power was obvious and undeniable. They expected a king who would command legions and overthrow empires with a flick of his wrist. They wanted a spectacle, a display of raw earthly power that would make their enemies tremble and their hearts soar with national pride. But that is not the person Isaiah saw. The servant he described would have none of the things the world values. He grew up before God like a tender young shoot, fragile and vulnerable, and like a root out of dry, cracked ground, his origins were humble, unassuming. There was nothing in his appearance that we would desire. No majestic beauty to draw us to him. Imagine a world looking for a mighty oak and God gives them a sapling. Imagine a people thirsting for a rushing river and God points to a hidden spring in the parched earth. He was ordinary, plain, easily overlooked. Pierced for our transgressions. The world didn't just overlook the servant, it despised him. He was despised and rejected by men, a man of sorrows acquainted with grief. This wasn't a momentary setback or a simple misunderstanding. This was deep, painful, persistent. He knew sorrow not as a visitor, but as a constant companion. We hid our faces from him as if his suffering was too ugly, too uncomfortable for us to behold. He was despised. We held him in low esteem. But then the prophecy takes a stunning turn. The prophet, speaking for all of us, has a moment of earth-shattering realization. Surely, he says with dawning astonishment, he has borne our griefs, carried our sorrows. All this time, we thought he was the one being punished. He was pierced for our transgressions. He was crushed for our iniquities. Every lash, every thorn, every nail had a purpose. The punishment that brought us peace was upon him. The very thing we needed for our healing, our wholeness, was accomplished through his agony. With his wounds, we are healed. Glory hidden in a cross and a suffering that saves the world. How do we measure glory? Our world has its answers. Glory is found in victory. Glory is found in power. By any of these standards, the cross was the opposite of glorious. It was an instrument of shame reserved for the lowest of criminals. But Isaiah and later the apostles saw something entirely different. They saw glory, but it was a glory of a different kind. They saw the glory of perfect holiness. They saw the glory of unconditional love, colliding in one ultimate act of sacrifice. On the cross, God's hatred for sin and his love for sinners met. His justice demanded that sin be punished. His mercy longed to forgive the sinner. On the cross, both were satisfied. This was not a display of brute force, but of divine strength. The strength to endure, the strength to forgive. The world saw a man dying. Heaven saw a God saving. The world saw a victim. Heaven saw a victor. This is why the cross changes everything. It redefines glory itself. The story of the suffering servant does not end in a tomb. Though he was crushed and put to grief, the prophecy hints at something more. This is the whisper of resurrection. The suffering was the pathway to victory. The grave was not a final destination, it was a passageway. Because of his suffering, a great harvest of salvation was brought forth. This single act of sacrificial love, performed in a forgotten corner of the Roman Empire, was not a small, localized event. It was an act with cosmic, eternal consequences. It threw open the doors of salvation to people from every nation, tribe, tongue. This is how the shame of the cross gives way to worldwide worship. The servant who was despised is now the king who is adored. And so the hope of the suffering servant is our hope today. The ancient words of Isaiah are not just a dusty prophecy. They are a living promise. That changes everything.